Hello class. This presentation will go over our final team project for CSEC 770 Integrating AI and Prompt Engineering. Presenting today will be myself, Victoria, and my partner, Daniel. To start off, our main objective was to simulate a phishing attack on OpenAI. In the first part of the class, we gathered intelligence through OSINT and presented to you our strategic plan, which you can see in our first video. Then we each developed our own Red Team AI bots, which we will divulge further in the next few slides. And lastly, Daniel and I, having spoken interest in Blue Team principles and values, decided to take a defensive approach to our AI cybersecurity solution. Daniel will now illustrate our bot analysis.
In this course, our team created Red Team AI bots to simulate phishing attacks on an OpenAI employee. The goal was to gather information about OpenAI's cybersecurity culture, security awareness, training, and current safeguards. To that end, our team used two separate pretexts for our individual bots to approach the target. Starting off with Daniel's bot, Daniel set up his phishing bot to act as a newly graduated college student. He is inquiring about a research engineer position with the AI security and privacy team at OpenAI. To seem more likable, Daniel configured the bot to share many of the same interests, hobbies, and even the same alma mater as the target. The reason why this pretext was selected for this project was because it was the least risky approach, since recruiters often have to go through multiple applications and would play in the bot's favor to avoid suspicion. OpenAI would also often show up in career fairs in college campuses looking for new grad students. Coupling this with the persuasion tactics, the target would become comfortable enough for the bot to easily segue into topics that would serve useful during the reconnaissance stage. A further analysis of the conversation with this bot revealed that the target was able to answer the 12 questions that the bot would ask. The bot kept a professional tone, and the prompt was praised for its clear structure. One critique about the bot was that Daniel's prompt included details that the bot unfortunately did not work into the conversation. The prompt had originally described the bot as having completed 3 internships with extracurricular activities that included playing the guitar and singing. This aspect of the prompt, which would have provided an opportunity for the bot to appear relatable, was not utilized in this conversation. Instead, Daniel's phishing bot appeared to be reading off of the list of objectives to answer. Another weak point has to do with contextual awareness. The target, on the other hand, might not recognize or be aware of all the tools the organization uses as part of their daily work, so the bot should have stuck to more general questions if they were finding the target's answers to the questions to be insufficient. Finally, the implementation of the AI model led to awkward interruptions between the bot and the target. This occurred because the bot was preparing a response too quickly to a sentence or thought that the target hadn't finished speaking out yet. The pauses to think about what to say were interpreted by the bot as an opportunity to speak, which that wasn't the case.
When it came time to decide what pretext to choose for my bot, I decided to go with something I felt somewhat comfortable and familiar with, as well as trying to find a scenario that would fit the criteria for the solo project. So after we gained our intelligence in our OSINT investigation, I decided to go with the pretext of a scenario I called Ava Calls Mike. In the pretext, Ava is from a tech company inquiring about some office space to a real estate agent named Mike. In an article by Jared Shelley, I found some common questions that people ask to a real estate agent with a specific area focusing on security, as there have been more concerns with such details since the pandemic and its change to the office work styles. With the pretext in mind, the bot first focused on the building's physical security features, alluding that it was for the company's safety and security. This strategy helped to align with the questions Shelley suggested and the objectives from Professor Flynn. The idea behind this tactic was to help distinguish which elements were company modifiable versus standard for the whole building, and also help us to confirm our OSINT details we had gathered. Now, my bot achieved 5 out of the 7 questions it was able to ask. The more positive strengths that came from my bot were its ability to be quite adaptable to pushback. This was particularly noticeable in the 3rd question. When it met with pushback, the bot effectively redirected the conversation by apologizing, explaining why it was asking such a question, and then reassuring and easing the caller back into answering other questions. My bot's suspicion handling techniques were widely praised, such as using a tone of authority balanced with communication prioritization, somewhat of a natural tone, and smooth adaptation when the conversation became tense. This helped to be particularly effective in diffusing conflict. The inclusion of a monitoring time element also contributed to the pacing and ensured the conversation stayed on track without appearing overly rehearsed. However, along with the words of praise, there were many areas of improvement that were also suggested and made note of. There were times of noticeable volume changes, overly fast delivery, and too much verbal vomit at times, which made the bot less convincing. Additionally, the lack of varied inflection diminished its ability to sound authentically human, but with further adjustments in the configuration settings, some of these issues could have been addressed. Secondly, some questions were misaligned with the pretext, reducing the bot's credibility and creating potential inconsistencies in the narrative. And then finally, the bot's final question triggered heightened suspicion once again, which led to a premature bailout. So the closing speech was delivered too quickly, it lacked some natural inflection, and was spoiled with too many words, or which I earlier called verbal vomit, which left the caller confused and suspicious in the end. And so together, Daniel and I learned a lot, and Daniel will now speak more about this.
After reflecting on the results of our vishing bots, our team identified 3 key lessons learned. The first key lesson relates to the handling of the conversations themselves. With the current offerings from vappy.ai, which is the website we use to create our bots, there were challenges associated with processing human conversations in real time, while also generating responses that sounded natural and appropriate for the situation. Remedying the issues with interrupting the target would include adjusting the settings found within the Start Speaking plan and the Stop Speaking plan. Some settings to consider include the wait seconds, or how long to wait before speaking, and the end pointing seconds, or how long to wait after a transcription ending with or without punctuation. Alternatively, vappy.ai also offers other LLM models to use. The one we used, GPT-4o Mini, was specifically designed for maintaining a balance between cost efficiency and capability. Depending on the model selected, the processing times, which are in milliseconds, can vary, which would not only alleviate the issues with timing the conversation, but also assist with improving the natural flow of responses and the formulation of coherent logical thoughts. The second key lesson relates to understanding the limitations in conversational memory and context awareness. The bots, at some points, could not connect the questions they asked naturally, nor could they justify their relevance in the conversation. This is where vappy.ai's knowledge base feature comes along. The knowledge base is a collection of custom files that contain information on specific topics or domains. The bot can pull from these files for additional context to streamline the prompt structure. Now, instead of putting all the questions to ask the target in the prompt, the bot can instead pull them from an organized file bank when it sees necessary. This alleviates the issue of the bots asking repetitive and contextually irrelevant questions. Lastly, the third key lesson concerns the prompt's structure itself. Another reason that our bots sounded like they were reading questions from a list is because the prompt was too rigid in its directions. According to Professor Flynn, the bots whose prompts left more room for the LLM to do what they had to do had transcripts that were more conversational, while the other bots that had suggested sentences in quotes sometimes created conversations that didn't feel as natural. As part of prompt engineering, future revisions of our bots should give more general goals to strive for. In combination with the questions and context being pulled from the knowledge base, the bot will be able to have a more natural and more spontaneous conversation that wouldn't follow a cookie-cutter structure. Now, all of the work we put into these solo projects leads us into a brief discussion on today's cyber landscape. Right now, in order to establish controls to counteract against phishing attacks, it requires a consideration of multiple important cybersecurity principles that were covered throughout the course. We're talking about how cybercriminals use Cialdini's principles of persuasion to exploit human psychology. Or how about the adoption of zero trust concepts to verify if the person we're talking to over the phone is actually who they say they are? How can we foster a culture of cognitive security and mindfulness to help organizations recognize the signs of phishing? Well, to build on these important cybersecurity principles, and also taking into account the information that we collected from our solar projects, our team is proposing a phishing detection system. This theoretical concept would use AI to detect phishing attempts in real time, providing proactive alerts and contextual guidance. This, in turn, would protect individuals and organizations from falling prey to social engineering attacks. Now, the concept of a phishing detection system is not new. In fact, back in January of 2021, before ChatGPT was even released, researchers in South Korea were attempting to test a real-time call analysis system that would take a phone conversation and calculate the probability that a given call is a phishing attack. Now, Google has announced an AI scam call detection system, which uses Gemini Nano on device to detect conversation patterns in phone calls that are commonly associated with scams, and it gives people alerts. In other words, today there are commercially available AI tools which have the ability to detect phishing attacks in real time. Furthermore, the proposed phishing detection system will also make use of the results of the Red Team bots to drive the AI detection functionality. In other words, it takes one to know one. As I mentioned before, the Red Team bots were having issues with timing and keeping the conversation flowing. Training the phishing detection system to spot these unnatural conversational patterns helps with determining if a phishing attack is also a bot-led attack. The phishing detection system will also make use of a database system to store contextual information on all internal employees that call the organization. In the case of a call from a supposed known or trusted person, the phishing detection system will provide a visual overview of the caller to the target, allowing the target to respond appropriately when a conversation begins to deviate from what the caller would normally talk about. Finally, as for how to implement this system, it would actually be trivial to integrate with pre-existing infrastructure. The system is designed to operate as a man-in-the-middle solution, sitting between incoming callers and the organization's phone systems. Incoming calls will first be routed through the phishing detection system, which will analyze the conversation. The system will transcribe the call and provide employees with a live transcript, with contextual insights that allow them to make informed decisions on how to handle potential phishing attacks. At most, the primary cost for the organization will involve licensing fees for the use of third-party AI models that power the system. Taking into account the processing of phone calls and the handling of information being sent over the phone, this might introduce some critical questions about data privacy, security, and compliance, which my partner Victoria will cover next.
Daniel and I were lucky enough to attend the Vegas Chamber's AI and Cybersecurity Policy Committee meeting in February 2024, or earlier this year. So when it came time to discuss the ethical implications when using the phishing detection system as our AI-based cybersecurity solution, it was already on our list of top priorities. We should all be concerned with the ethical considerations of using AI-based solutions. Some areas of interest that Daniel and I both agree on are in the context of data privacy, transparency, disclosure, error management, prevention of misuse, hallucinations, and inaccuracies. To begin, for data privacy, organizations should secure sensitive data through encryption and anonymization and ensure adherence to compliance standards like the PCI DSS. Next, as you can see in the photo on the right-hand side, as of September 20th, 2024, which was only a few weeks ago, through the actions of Senator Josh Becker, California has now enabled the California AI Transparency Act, SB 942, which mandates the disclosure of AI use in interactions. Additionally, according to OWASP, when error management is implemented, then real-time feedback loops and human oversight can mitigate risks from AI errors. In the next bullet, the prevention of misuse is another topic to consider. By restricting AI access through sandbox environments or containerized platforms, this can help to limit potential misuse, especially by insider threats. Or, commercially available LLMs from Google and Apple have offered on-device processing like the likely scams detections to help users fend off potential threats. And lastly, improvements in accuracy can address hallucinations through third-party detection tools, frequent audits, and robust feedback systems, ensuring AI models are constantly refined. Throughout this project, we gain insights into social engineering, prompt engineering, and AI bot security. Class discussions, fireside chats, and readings deepened our understanding of cybersecurity threats and adversarial tactics, especially in phishing. So together we synthesized our thoughts from the class and where to look for the future. First, we recognized the need to explore free and affordable cybersecurity tools as the open source landscape requires continuous updates and continuous learning. With that, we also want to give back by educating others, whether it's formal or informal, in the professional setting, or in our everyday lives. And lastly, we want to continue to explore and give insights on the new laws and regulations for AI, both in the US and worldwide. Daniel and I would like to thank you for listening to our presentation and hope you have gained some new knowledge and perhaps a new perspective on AI. Thank you.